a little bit earlier. An absolutely gorgeous afternoon in the Mara. It rained a little bit earlier, but a very light sprinkle, but you can see the sun's out. It is up against the escarpment. I've heard she's moved back into that area, so it'll be very interesting to see, has she still got 4 cubs? Has she lost any? It'll just be really great to catch up with her. So very, very exciting. Remember, if you have any questions, to get hold of us. Now, Jamie should be out shortly. She's having a little bit of gremlin issues, and so is Chitwa. So till then. Now, I did almost 4 days with Malika and her 2 boys, and we saw some incredible behavior. Some of you might have caught the Facebook Live, and we actually saw her and the 2 boys attempt to hunt, and the musketeers, that's something you can sort of believe, but with a female with 2 young males going after that buffalo, that was quite spectacular and very, very interesting behavior. And it goes to show you that even an animal like a cheetah, which is so slight, if there is a slight opportunity at an easy meal, even from something as big as a buffalo, they will take that opportunity. So I found that absolutely fascinating. To be Kakenya's daughter, who's got those 4 cubs. The her sister actually lives a little bit further south of her. She started off with 4 cubs, but she's now only got 2. Now, cheetahs have a really hard time due to the amount of other predators there are. So they have a very, very high mortality rate when they're cubs, and also a very high mortality rate as adults, a much higher mortality rate than lions or leopards, for example. Now, your average mortality rate in lion and leopard cubs is quite similar. It's around 70%, whereas cheetahs, and remember that is an average. Different areas will have different success rates depending on the outside or the different scenarios in those areas. So you're looking at about 70% for mortality for lions and leopards on average through most large populations, and that is only up until with lions, it's till they're about 6 or 7 months old. So with leopards, till they're about a year old. Now, cheetah, even into adulthood, hold a very high mortality rate in comparison. So once a leopard or a lion has reached that year mark, and again, it changes with whether they're male or females. Let's take females. It's a little bit easier. In lions, their mortality rate drops down to about 12%. 12 to 15% for their adult life. However, with leopards, it's a little bit for young male leopards, because they've got to leave often their natal territories and go find a new territory, and so they have a slightly higher, about 20% mortality rate in that first sort of 2 years after they've left mom. Now, then again, with young male, 5 to 6 years old, the mortality rate jumps again to nearly 30%, and that's because that's the age where they start challenging other dominant males for territory, changing of territory, so there's a little bit less. But with cheetah, however, it does stay relatively high compared to the other big cats, their mortality rate throughout their life. So I thought, while we're on our way up towards the escarpment to have a look, we might have a little dabble, see if we can spot one of our favorite black rhinos that hangs around this area. Quite funny, black rhino in company of elephants, or not in the herd as such, but around the peripheries. And in this particular spot where we've got a herd of ellies coming up, so let's still get a little closer to the ellies and we'll have a look. Oof, this road became very bumpy after the rains. Seems like a few people got stuck on here as well. There we go. Hello, ellies. There we go. Isn't that quite nice? The ellies up against the skyline. We're sitting a little bit lower than them. And there's a beautiful big cow who's walking towards us slowly. Now, I know a lot of you who've been watching for a long time and watching the two different feeds from Mara or from South Africa, and I've commented on the elephant's tusks in the Mara. Quite often, they're a lot longer, and you do have less broken tusks than you do in South Africa. Now, that is a habit of diet. So the longer tusks, and specifically the unbroken tusks, is due to their diet here is predominantly grass throughout the year, where there is back at South Africa, an elephant's got a very, well, it's not very strange, be grass and 20% trees and bushes, and during the dry season that swaps. Why are you being upset? I haven't done anything, madam. Don't make me shout at you. I don't want to get upset with you. What's the matter? Is there something behind us? No? You don't like my new shampoo? She is a little bit funny, so we're not going to move the car. A lot of people make the mistake of moving a car when you have a semi-aggressive elephant or a disturbed elephant like this, and we don't know whether there's a bull around that's been causing a bit of havoc. That's often leads to behavior like this with this female. So I'm just going to keep my eye on her. You can see their tails are very, very, very important to watch when dealing with elephants. So when their tail is a bit semi-rigid like that, it means she is upset. So I'm just going to sit here, and I've carried on talking on purpose. Now you're just, well, there's a little bull. We can't see him just yet, but he's trying to become full of nonsense behind me. But he looks like he's actually playing. Hey, you, don't start nonsense. Don't get everyone else worked up. Now, he was behind us. He could have quite easily got the females worked up. Young elephant bulls tend to do that because he's now completely calm. Let's see. Trouble causer? Yeah, you, nonsense. Teenage trouble causer. Yeah, you start. Move it. Move it, exactly. Don't make me shout at you. It's actually a little girl who was causing the trouble. I couldn't see it. It looked like a young bull from behind. And anyway, we're going to keep moving. Just make sure there's enough space for that adult female who was looking a bit upset. Now, Roshni would like to know, what's the size difference between Asian elephants and adult elephants? And you know what, Roshni? You got me. I used to know that. Oh, there's something big in front of me. Oh, it's a termite mound. I used to know this fact out of my head, but I'm afraid I've become a little bit rusty. I can tell you African elephants are bigger. I think in adult males there's probably close on 1,500 kilograms of difference. A really big African elephant bull she's having a mud bath. Let's wait from here because she was a bit uppity earlier, so we can just stop at a bit of a distance. There we go. She's still uppity, but she's spraying herself with mud from the puddle. And she's moving on. And I say we'll just give her space to move away so she feels safe. Now, we're just going to finish up with Roshni's question here. So about the size difference between Asiatic and and African elephants. So I was saying a really big elephant bull, body size and can be up to about 4 meters, 4.5 meters at the shoulder. Asiatic bulls are around 5 tons for a very big individual. And however, the largest body-sized elephant ever recorded is from southern Angola, and it weighed over 10 tons, so over 10,000 kilograms, which is quite a scary thought, an elephant that size. But yes, so the African elephants, both males and females, are on average quite a lot bigger. Here we go. She's looking a little bit more calm, not 100% calm, but her tail's not erect anymore, and she stopped for a drink. So there we go. There we go, girl. Adaptation to curb poaching. Philip, no, they're not. They're an evolutionary adaptation, the fact that the genetics of large tusks have been removed from poaching and overhunting. So it is not at all something that elephants are evolving to not have to stop poaching. It is something that has happened because of poaching. Now, with elephant cows, they often don't have big tusks, so they don't really need big tusks. So an elephant cow uses her tusks for feeding, for breaking branches, for stripping bark. The reason the males traditionally have much bigger tusks is for fighting, and fighting over females. We're in a little bit of cloud cover at the moment, which is quite pleasant. So we're going to leave the slightly grumpy elephants and carry on our wanderings. What was that? Probably a stick, but... it was a branch. Okay, we're going to wander on, and I wonder how my good friend Tristan, all the way down in South Africa, is doing, and is his leopard luck going to continue?
You can see they are hot else with their beaks open and practicing a bit of gula flutter. On Twitter or YouTube chat if you want to get hold of us. Right, now the plan for this afternoon is, because it's warm, is probably going to be much like yesterday's plan, which is to check a lot of the waterholes got around. Hopefully there'll be a lot of general game. Ellies as well if they're somewhere about, but we are slowly meandering now down towards Treehouse Dam. We're actually not too far at the moment. We're probably, I'd say, about 2 or 3 minutes, and VM and I have a bet as to where Hyena will be today, because we know our boy likes waterholes and likes to be very, very close to water. And so VM reckons Treehouse. I'm on the fence. I've got a decision. I'm Treehouse as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I think a little sneaky one and maybe be around Chelapan. So we'll have to check. I'm sure one of the waterholes. Search, and hopefully we will find Hyena at one of them. If not Hyena, well, we can go and look around for maybe Tumba or Tandi. I know Rex told me last night he saw a said he couldn't see whether it was sure. He said it just went across the road and he didn't have a spot like anything with him going home. So I wonder if maybe Tandi's not around up on Virtual Access close to Gallagher shortcut side. So we might go and later, but they won't be out. It's a bit cooler. They won't be out now. It's still a little too hot for the hyena den at this stage. But let's see. Lots of antelope species that we've got at Tree.
Oh, hello. Hi, welcome. Seems like Tristan's battling some gremlins. Jahawi and I are about to battle some mud. Well, looks pretty dry at the moment. They were from Canada, and they had hired a self-drive car. This could... And they got very, very stuck trying to look at the Angama pride. So they were doubly stressed. The fact that they were stuck, and the fact that they were stuck with the pride of lions less than 100 meters away. Now, strangely enough, it seems to be quite a common occurrence to either break down or get stuck around lions. I mean, elephants... I've ever had in my life was we had 3 big male lions in the car, and the fuel pump was giving problems, so you sort of clamber around on the outside of the car with the lion sort of watching you, going, what? Trying to bleed the fuel lines. Oh, and changing flat tires around lions, that's another common one. Almost everything else, elephants sometimes can get a little bit upset in that. But even with lions and that, it's not actually that dangerous. Oh, hello, birdie. Now, hopefully we can add a few more bird species to everyone's bird list. I just want to make sure I don't make a boo-boo. Here we go. Now, I know what that is. Do you know what that is? So if you know what bird that is, hashtag Safari Live. It is one we have seen before a few times, but far less common than their cousin, which we see quite often. So there's a little hint for everyone. Hashtag Safari Live. What bird is this? I'll even give you the old English nickname for them, which is a Jackie Hangman. That should be a nice big clue. Well, looks like that Jackie Hangman's got no insects to hang, so we will carry on. As you can see, this area becomes quite difficult after a heavy rain. Yeah, well, we're going to start heading with a little bit more speed and hopefully not get stuck back towards where that cheetah was last seen. But while we do that, let's go see what...
Gremlins stay away fearing. A fork-tailed drongo that's sitting and has come down and had a few little drinks of water. I think there's also a situation where there might be a few little mayflies or something hatching at points, because it did hawk just now. That motion that have been splashing about and drinking and having a good time. There is a couple blacksmith lapwings around that are always on the fringes of the waterhole, and they're just picking up various little food items as they patrol the banks of Treehouse Dam. So unfortunately, I didn't put all my eggs in the treehouse basket. Maybe he's going to be somewhere else. So we're going to carry on, because our impalas and our waterbuck have disappeared. The terrapins that hang around the house have gone inside the water, or into the water, should I say, not inside. And so they are not really visible. And the damselflies those guys around the water. Remember, yesterday we had a few banded groundlings.
Welcome back. Hello again. It seems like Tristan is fighting the good fight against the gremlins this afternoon, coming down the mountain. So you're back with us. And we're just going a little bit quicker now. I want to get off the main road and up on the road that goes up towards the escarpment. And then we're going to start going really slowly and checking that escarpment very carefully for Kakenya's daughter. But while we do that, I've got to wait for you to answer the bird question correctly first. We'll see if we can find some more birds today. And I know Jamie. I just want to get off the main road. Escarpment and also the riverine forests. So I'm really hoping we can show you the other species at some point as well. I know some of you must be getting close to that magical 100 bird species mark for your Mara bird lists. So why don't you guys let me know how many birds are you on? Who's close to that magical 100 and can we get you there this evening?
A very good afternoon to all of you and welcome to the Sunset Safari. I apologize for being late. As you can tell, we've had one or two major attacks of gremlins over the last day or so. So my name is Fergus is on camera with me and we apologize for being late. This one. But we're okay. It's one of those things. It happens. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. I'm not sure how much you heard of my previous conversation, but essentially I was saying to Ferg that those eland look so pretty in the afternoon light, and he was saying they look lovely when lit up from the side. So there you go. A herd of the largest antelope, looking utterly beautiful. I really find that being in the Mara has given me not a new appreciation, but a reminder of just how striking eland actually are, especially when they come right up next to you, and you get an idea as to just how large those big bulls are. And their stripes and their smooth tan coats, they are very, very pretty creatures. The impressive sets of horns. Now this is a mixture of females and males because of course the females of eland also have horns. They live out in open environments, often in slightly more arid areas, and so they use them to help to keep their calves safe one way or another, whether it's to protect themselves or their calves actively, or as a way of fooling the dominant males into believing that the young males are, or not making them as noticeable. They don't stand out as much. There's a big bull, easy to see there that he is the largest of the group. You can see his big dewlap, fatty flap of skin that hangs below his neck, and a much thicker set of horns. If you look really carefully, you can see the stripes running down his sides. Of course, tying in, along with those spiral horns, the family connection or the tribe connection with things like kudu and nyala that, of course, you will see with Tristan. Is to get to hear the clicks. They are, aren't they? I know exactly what you mean. It's in the shape of the body is more sort of antelope. Antelope, when you think of an antelope, you conjure up in your mind something slender and elegant, where eland are striking and powerful. So absolutely, I agree with you. They do sort of look cattleish, and in fact, when you look at their tracks, they are very, very similar to those of buffalo. Their footprints look very similar, especially when you get sort of youngsters. To tell the difference between the two takes a couple of glances. So they do sort of remind one of cattle and cows. They are, of course, antelope. So related, but distantly. And another marvellous Mara afternoon with some rain on the way, I think. Roshni, as far as I know, yes, eland do breed all year round. Similar to buffalo, I think that you'll find they have a peak season round about now. And I've seen more baby eland than I've pretty much around about now, because the wildebeest have gone, the rains have come, the grass is green and beautiful, and there's plenty for them to eat. And of course it makes sense to have your babies when there's resources available. That sun is really bright. It is really starting, it's eyes watering. Let's look at the eland again. Whew, I've got spots in front of my eyes. Kerry, in terms of eland herd size, you're not going to see much larger than a group of around about between 10 and 15. Sometimes you get large gatherings of different herds all together. But in this particular area, you don't. The biggest group you actually find is up at the top of the mountain, which is the largest herd I've seen so far, and numbers around about 30 or so individuals. But you're looking at, on average, a group herd size similar to this. You'll also get bachelor groups, of course, like with most antelope. So you will see bachelor, not quite loners, but not quite in a breeding herd. That's a female over there striding off. Now bear in mind that at its shoulder, an eland bull is nearly the same size as me. So at his shoulder, I would probably I would just be a little bit taller than his shoulder. And he definitely would be taller than me at the tips of his horns. So they really are enormous. Now, apparently, talking about herd size, in the Mara we see herds around about this size, but in certain areas, remember how I said that you can actually find groups of them all gathered together. In certain areas you can get eland herds of up to 500 individuals, which I've never seen before, but I would say that must be truly extraordinary. Almost like seeing a herd of buffalo, but eland. That pretty girl with her stripes. Shaking off an overly attentive oxpecker. The other thing I've never heard is an alarm call from an eland. I know they bark. Gary, no, they're not in the same family as impala. Impala are an interesting one. So essentially, antelope are not divided into different families, although we often use that word interchangeably, because of course they all fall into the same family. And this is where taxonomic distinctions, let's base it more on a linguistic distinction rather than going too deep into the classification. But technically antelope are all part of the same family, but they are divided. A very noisy bird somewhere. They are divided into tribes. And the different tribes are grouped together based on physiological similarities in much includes Sitatunga, the Bongo, the Kudu, the Inyala, the Bushbuck, all of those antelope grouped together. And when you see them next to each other, you get an idea of exactly why. When you see the similarities in terms of patterning in terms of the shape of their horns. Antelope are a weird one because impala are a weird one because they actually sit in their entire entirely by themselves in their own particular tribe. One of the things, of course, being the strange glands on the backs of their legs, the metatarsal glands. Those are quite unusual. So it groups them together in a completely separate tribe. Then you get gazelles like the Thompson's gazelle, the Grant's gazelle. You get the hartebeest, which includes the topee, coax. The larger antelope species, the roan and the sable, being grouped together. And in the smaller antelope species, the tribe of dakers. And so it goes. So impala, I keep calling them antelope. They are antelope, but impala are quite separate. Larry, the dewlap on the big bull eland is, for the most part, like most of those sorts of features on an animal, is actually mainly there for display to show just how healthy and big the eland is. And when you watch them fight, they'll do the same thing that the kudu or the inyala will do. Okay, they don't have quite the dramatic dance that inyala have, but the dewlap will actually be there to make them look more impressive. And they'll stand what's known as lateral presentation, where they stand side by side and they basically try and make themselves look bigger and stronger. If they do end up fighting, then the dewlap also helps to protect the neck and the sensitive areas there. So it's one of those features similar to a big male leopard. You'll see that they have them as well. It's one of those protective features. The lion has a mane, the eland has a dewlap. It also allows for a bit of extra fat storage, so a bit of extra energy storage as well. Now, I know that we've been enjoying a truly spectacular eland sighting. We're going to move on towards those young male lions I found this morning. While we do that, I'm sure you've all been racking your brains as to which bird Brent found for you. Let's go and find out who got it right.
Oh, hello. Well, our road has become a little bit suspect. I just want to have a look how sharp the undercut is before I take the corner. So you can see there's been a lot of rain, so some of these roads are probably going to move in the not too distant future, and a terrapin just plopped into the water there. Now what's amazing is I can actually hear the water flowing under the ground. So there's no water on the top here. That was a little bit flowing, but I think there's actually water coming out from underneath us. You can just hear it. Little bubbling brook. Okay, enough bubbling about brooks. Let's go find a cheetah. Fiscal. Yes, Southern Fiscal, same. It's all the same bird, just under different names. Aha. And we have a lovely male sooty chat sitting on the... Oh, he's in the dark there. Where's he gone? There he is. Hello, Mr. Sooty Chat. Now, the males have a very distinct white pectoral patch on their shoulder, whereas the females are completely dark and they lack that little white patch on their shoulders. Now, one of the more common bird species in the Mara, we see them flopping about, whacking insects, and I've only seen 2 chat species. Oh, there we go, he spotted something on the ground. I've only seen 2 chat species since I've been in the Mara. This one, and up around camp and near the entrance gate into the Mara, we do see a familiar chat quite regularly. Okay. There are some other vehicles up here. I think they're doing the same thing as us, and they're looking for this cheetah. Oh, now we're getting serious into the birding while we look for the cheetah. Let me just have a quick... Don't fly away. Oh, he's in the long grass. Let me just... Did you see him there, Jahawi? See this little patch of grass that's sticking out here? I'm going to try and move forward. That one there. If you look on your camera screen there, he's hopping around in there. And to try help our birders get to their 100... Oh, he's gone. Oh, no, he's still there. To our 100 birds, we're going to have to start doing some serious birding. Have you got him? He's just there. A little bit to the left of this little patch of grass right next to us. Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah, he's escaped. But we will keep it. It looked like a plain back pipit, but I didn't have a close enough look. Abadi! Now, I've seen some really nice birds in this area. Cardinal quelea. I'm very much looking forward to the widow birds actually getting back into their breeding plumage. We had beautiful Jacksons and golden rump, so lots of birds to look forward to. And actually, the other day I saw my first lesser spotted eagle in the Mara, and I think it stopped for a feed on termite allets on the way down. Because I'm sure with Tristan, you're going to start seeing lesser spotted eagles and the like. The Wahlbergs have already arrived. The lesser spottings are normally a little bit later than the Wahlbergs eagles. But of course, I'm quite excited to see some other birds that are going to be in around the Mara for the summer months that we don't get. Romit would like to know, what is the rarest bird in the Mara? Oh, that's a difficult question. So I'm going to stop and have a look up the mountain here. We're looking for that cheetah still, and keep looking down to the side as well. We just have a quick look. Romit, generally what happens with very rare birds anywhere is they are vagrants, so they don't commonly occur here. They're sort of once-off sightings. I saw a bird. Unfortunately, I didn't get a photograph of it, which would be a first record if I had got a photograph of it for the Mara, which is I'll actually show you quickly. A very cool bird. It's called a Somali bee-eater. Oh, isn't that? I wanted to show you very quickly Scallows Taraco that we get quite a lot in camp. Number 2. There we go. Oh, my head's in the way. So there we go. Number 2. So that's one, the other Taraco we get in camp quite often. Now, okay, what was I looking for now? I've completely forgotten again. Somali bee-eater. Thanks, Charlie. It was actually a first for me. I'd never seen one before, so I was very excited. There we go, number 7. So normally prefers drier areas than the Mara, and is relatively common in Kenya, but generally to the west and to the north of us. To the east and to the north of us. So not too common, and I think it was, hopefully I will manage to get a picture, and we can prove that we saw it. Birders are quite funny like that. Because they were never supposed to occur there, and I was, did I know what a wattled crane looked like? And I was like, guys, been birding a very long time. A wattled crane is a very distinct bird, and also I grew up in Botswana where we get massive flocks of them, but I can quite proudly say, let me show that this is a little bit of a boast, I suppose. Let's get the cranes out. There we go. So that is the wattled crane. You can't really confuse it with anything else. And if we go across here, shall we, and zoom in tight on its distribution map, you see those 2 little ticks? The 2 little ticks? Those are me. It took me a lot of arguing with the birders, but I got 2 ticks. Those 2 little X's are wattled cranes out of their traditional known habitat, and I had them breeding, although they were never able to actually successfully raise the chicks there. The water monitors kept snacking them. Sorry, Chantal, can you go again with that? I didn't hear you. You broke up. Now, it sounds like Tristan might have fought off some of his gremlins. Now, Tristan and I are very active birders, and we're very competitive birders, only with each other, it seems, though. So Tristan is going to tell you a nonsense story about what he thinks the rarest bird at Djuma, when he knows it is the corncrake I found this year.
Well, Brent Leo Smith, I know that this bird really does irritate you, that I've seen it in the Sabi Sands and you haven't, and so that's why we're going to choose it as the rarest bird within the Sabi Sands. And it's because, as far as I know, there's only ever been one sighting of this bird in the Sabi Sands, and according to the distribution maps, it is this bird over here called the golden pipit. Now, this bird has not been seen in the Sabi Sands before. I saw one in January that was confirmed with photographs and everything like that. So Brent keeps telling me that this is a common bird in East Africa, but that's okay because we're talking about the Sabi Sands. And so if we look on the map itself and the distribution of where they occur, you'll see that most of the maps normally have green all over the place. The little red crosses are how many times this bird has been seen in South Africa. So if you count those little crosses, it's really not a common species within the Sabi Sands at all. So this is the bogey bird for Brent in the Sabi Sands, and I remember last year he gave me a lot of trouble because he said, no, this bird is not what I thought it was, and in fact it was a yellow-throated longclaw, which is this one on top. But he was just giving me stick and trying to bait me into reacting, because we all know that you can tell the difference between this and the golden pipit quite easily, particularly when this bird flies. It has these bright yellow wing and tail feathers. It really is difficult not to get this right. And this bird is the male, so I saw the male that near Simambili, and it was a very, very exciting thing to see, so super happy. Now, Brent himself has also seen a couple of really rare birds in the Sabi Sands that make me a little bit jealous, to be fair, and to give him credit. He's got purple-banded sunbird, and he's also got the corncrake. Now, the corncrake he saw also at the beginning of this year. I think it was in about March he saw it, maybe a little bit later, even April, on Cheetah Plains when he flushed it out of a little wetland marsh area. And so he does have those two birds on me, that's for sure. But it is always a competition with Brent and I, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being in the same location as him in some time in the future. I don't know when that will ever be, because he's going to be up in the Mara for a while longer, and I'm still going to be on Djuma for a while longer. But hopefully one day we're going to be back in the same location, and then we can start a competition once again, because it's always nice to try and bird with Brent. It gets the kind of juices flowing and makes you want to really be better than what you really are. And like I say, losing to Brent is a no-go, because otherwise you never hear the end of it. And same if he loses to me, we just give each other endless amounts of trouble in that regard. So hopefully we will be in the same location, like I say, and we'll be able to do some birding together. I would love to spend some time actually with Brent up in the Mara, just because his thirst for knowledge of birds should be quite big, and he should be able to teach me quite a lot about the birds that are up there. So I would always like to spend some time with him up there. It's nice when he's around. He's very passionate about the birds, and it makes it a lot easier to learn from somebody that is like that. So hopefully one day. Now, I did see something around this corner. It's a little steenbok, that's what I saw. So it's just sitting on the edge of the road. This is our little Mulawati steenbok. It looks like the female that we've got here, or is it the male? I can't see. Young males, so it's got small little horns on it. And these guys are actually quite relaxed. We see them a lot on the Mulawati at the moment. So there's a pair of Dacre, and then there's two of these steenbok that hang around, and they, as you can see, are fairly relaxed individuals. They kind of move around. Normally steenbok are very shy and reclusive, and they run away from us, but these guys have gotten so used to us driving up and down the Mulawati that they're actually really not too perturbed. And you can see this one is loving the vegetation that it's getting, and that will actually be quite interesting, because a steenbok is one of the few creatures that we get here in the Kruger Park area that is incredibly resistant to drought. So these guys flourished last year, and the reason why is because these guys can get moisture from anywhere everywhere. They get moisture from the vegetation that they eat. So now in the summer months, they will sequester a lot of water from what they're feeding on. And in the winter months, you'll find what they do is there's a lot of dew around in winter because it's the colder temperatures. And so they'll go up to vegetation and they'll actually get water from the vegetation itself or off the ground. And they actually don't need to be anywhere near water. And that's why their numbers are quite good throughout even desert areas. They survive quite well. So it's a very hardy animal. Even though it's so little, it's an incredibly specialized creature and is able to deal with a lot of different things and be able to actually survive in even the harshest of climes. But we're going to unfortunately probably disrupt our steenbok a little bit because I want to try and head down towards the Mulawati just to see, are you going to stay still for us? You are very relaxed. And like I say, it's a young male, it's not an old individual at all, but you can see he's completely unperturbed by us, and it's unusual to see a steenbok like this. Generally, they run, and the reason why I say it's not an old individual, look at the horn structure. You see how small those horns are. When it becomes a big adult male, those horns will go up and past the ears quite quickly, and so you'll find that that is still a very small individual, but moving a little bit, there's a little bit of twitching and a little bit of movement. Little steenbok is he's probably breathing quite quickly because of that reason. You can see a little nervous of us. Every time I kind of talk or move on the vehicle, it just twitches and looks, but the ears are going to try and help it to determine what's going on. So these guys are so low to the ground that they need their ears to be able to hear what's going on. You'll see the ears constantly moving around, and one of them is pretty much focused on my voice at the moment. And there we go. You're going to come closer. I'd be very surprised if it does, but it's found itself probably the only little bit of shade that there is in this whole section, and it's found itself some food as well as shade, so a perfect little place for a steenbok to sit and relax. Very cute. Like I say, not every day that we get to spend as much time with a steenbok. They're normally little fleeting glimpses of these guys as they run off, but I'm pretty sure he's going to move now. There we go. So off he goes. They generally do. They're not animals that spend too long close to the car. Right, now, while I get into the Mulawati and try and see if I can find any tracks for our spotted friends, I believe Jamie Patterson has found something that, well, I can't remember the actual last time we managed to see a herd of buffalo here at Djuma.
I hear that the herds of buffalo have been truly scarce on Djuma. They, of course, are not scarce out here in the Mara, and with all of the rain, plenty of grass, and no wildebeest, they have become a lot more obvious as we drive through certain areas, so much so that we've even got to know the different herds of buffalo that move along pretty regular paths as they move through the Mara. So this is the pink-nosed buffalo herd, and in fact I think I've just spotted one of the pink females. No, it's not her. I got overly excited there. There's about 4 or so cows in this herd. There we go, there's a pink-nosed one at the back. Sorry, Ferg, a bit awkward back there. She's lying there. There she is, with a little pink nose. A truly attractive feature. There she is. So this is the buffalo herd that the Sausage Tree Pride have a tendency to harass on a regular basis, whether it's the cubs causing trouble. She's basically been sat on by another buffalo. Personal space, not a problem if you're a buffalo. Occasionally they get fed up with each other and they start to moo. I don't know what else you'd call it, it's pretty much mooing. They start to moo at each other and push at each other to try and make some space, but they're all having an afternoon rest. And it smells like a cattle farm. Now there we go, we were talking about cattle earlier with the eland. Now, these guys are not, they are not at all in any way, they are related to cattle, they're more closely related to cattle than something like an eland. But, of course, still a completely separate species, the Cape of Buffalo. But they really do smell like cows. They really, really do. While we look for and we scan for other pink-nosed buffalo. Obviously, this female over here has given us a very clear demonstration of what a buffalo nose should look like. So, Rachel, you want to know what causes a pink nose? I think it's just a lack of pigmentation. I think it's a little genetic abnormality that causes a slightly different distribution of pigment. Pigment? That's not a word. Pigment in the nose. I'm not 100% sure on exactly what it is or exactly what causes it. I will tell you that you'll probably find it's more vulnerable to the effects of the sun, and it might actually darken or get sort of freckly spots in it as the buffalo grows older. But I'm honestly, I think that's all it would be. It would just be a genetic thing, but I don't know exactly. An absence of melanin in quite a specific spot on the end of the buffalo's nose. And you know what? I can't see another pink-nosed female. I hope they haven't all been eaten. There were at least 4 that I saw. Well, there's nothing like a look of a buffalo to put you in your place. You ever want to feel disliked? The way that they look down their noses at you. And by the way, I'm sure many of you are wondering what happened to the female with the broken legs. And that was a truly extraordinary story, because it really gave us insight not into just the bond between a female and her calf, but also the older siblings as well. And the fact that although a female might have a young calf, just like this little chap over there, she will still have a bond with her older calf. And the older calf in question in this particular instance desperately tried to protect his mum by charging everything that came close to her as she limped along. So I don't know what happened to her. I never saw her again, and I guess we'll probably never know, which in a way is quite nice, because we could believe quite happily that she managed to heal up. We don't know if those legs were properly broken. I think at least one was. But she managed to heal up and walk away, and that she'll be absolutely fine. We can believe that. Nice little insight into their family dynamics. The buffalo here in the Mara are much, much larger on average, especially in terms of horn size. So you're looking at the boss and saying that it looks smaller than the ones that we see on Djuma, these of course being the females. Yes, so of course the females have a naturally smaller boss, but they are on average a little bit larger than around about between 50 and 100 kilograms larger on average out here in the Masai Mara. So if we have a look at a male, female's getting edgy. Where's a good example of a big bull? He's not bad looking in terms of his boss, although his horns are very curly. Now he's put his head down, he's shy. It's okay, you can show us your boss. And I have seen the widest horns that I've ever seen. I'm not sure exactly on boss thickness whether they would be larger here. There we go, there's another male. But I must say I've seen horns in terms of length, both on the females and the males, that make the buffalo horns back on Djuma look like little impala horns. Slight exaggeration, and I certainly wouldn't say that to the face of a buffalo on Djuma. In fact, I wouldn't say much to the face of a buffalo unless I was very safely up a tree. But no, they are large here, and the horns are very, very large here.
Kinky tail. One of the lionesses has got a kinky tail in this pride.
Oof. The one problem with sitting in the middle of a buffalo herd is that all the flies jump ship. And they come from the buffaloes and they come and sit with us, and then they manage to stick in the wake of the vehicle. Look at this girl looking at us. Boy, I mean. Definitely all boy. I think I just breathed in a fly. It's okay. It's alright. I'll survive. Robert, I'm actually not sure exactly what the average is for a buffalo's diet. I would say that they would eat, on average, less than... If, let's say there was a buffalo-sized zebra. Buffalo-sized zebra would have to eat about double the amount that a buffalo would have to eat. And the reason behind that is that buffalo are ruminants, which means they take a bit longer to go through the whole digestive process. They ruminate, they re-chew their food. I'm just going to have a sip of water to wash down the fly. Bit of protein never hurt anyone. What was I talking about? Oh, ruminants. So they will need less per kilogram of their own body weight than something like a hindgut fermenter or a zebra. I'm not sure exactly what the excuse me. I'm not sure what the exact amount that they eat per day is. I confess, I don't know off the top of my head. I could try and find out for you, Umkar. We can add it to the... Romney. Romit. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. I should just stop talking at this point. I've got things to find out from Romit, and I've got things to find out for Umkar. And those all have to happen at some point. Right, so while we've been sitting here chatting about the fact that the sausage tree pride... Hi, guys. Enjoys tormenting these buffalo. It seems as though Brent has been hot in the search on the I don't know what I'm talking about. Off you go to Brent, who's got some lions.
Oof, smelly lions, and we're downwind. Flatulent lions should actually be the statement. And we've got the big sausages. So the bigger pride with the two young males. And the kinky-tailed female, I'm trying to see if I can spot her. Now, they are so fat, it does look like they have eaten a buffalo. Remember, this is coming to you 100% live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. Now, I can't see a carcass around, but there's too many fat bellies, so there must have been a big carcass at some point. So there we go. They might go for a little wander. They definitely not going to hunt, I don't think, unless something stands on their tails. They got these really pretty two young boys. And of course, one of my favorite males is that one of the dominant males over them. He's got that big cut through his nose, which makes him very, very distinct. Now, as I said, we were quite lucky. They were absolutely flat and sleeping. They're on the move now. But we're going to stick with the lions, see what they get up to. But Tristan's got a feathered friend to show you.
Wide, will do if you want. Well, in some cases when driving the Mulawati, one has got to keep an eye out for various little things, not only the big spotted cats, because other spotted predators live in this area too. And one in particular that we found is probably one of our smallest predators that we have. There, sitting on a branch, you can see the spotted barred pattern of a barred owlet. And so this little guy is just sitting in the shade, and when we were driving in the Mulawati itself, it just spooked out of one of the trees and landed in this little spot and is now taking it very easy in the shade. But how cool is that? Not every day we get to see the owls in sort of midday or strong sunlight. Most of the time we only find them towards the end of the evening, and barred owlets have got to be one of my favorites. And the reason why I like barred owlets so much is because when I worked at Simbambili, there was a barred owlet pair that used to live in the lodge itself, and when I used to walk from the main area towards the rooms and go and walk along that path, often I would find these little barred owlets sitting right next to the path itself, and they became very relaxed. Oh, are you a little bit tired? I wonder if it's going to regurgitate a pellet for us. Come on. There we go. Did you see there's a pellet that dropped there? How cool is that? So what happens with owls is that they are not like a lot of the other birds. They have a very special sac, basically, that sits underneath the beak. And when they hunt little rodents and various other small mammals, and they feed off them and they swallow, and it goes into this little crop, and from there's muscles that work the meat, and basically what it does is it separates the meat from the fur and from the bones and all that stuff that is difficult to digest. From there, then the meat goes down into the stomach where it's absorbed into nutrients and into the body, but the fur and bones stay in that crop, and they then regurgitate it out during the day. And so that was what we just saw, and it's very uncommon to see that. You will not see that every single day, so we've been absolutely spoiled to see that. that. That is super, super cool. I'm so glad that we got to see that. That's very cool. What I want to actually do is maybe come back here in a few days' time, because our gyro repeater should be working, and we should be on walk soon, and come and see if I can find that pellet in that area and show you just what comes out of this little barred owlet in a few days' time. It will be really cool to see it. But that was epic. It's not something we're going to see often. That's very, very cool. Now, barred owlets are obviously a bird that can be very easily confused with our pearl spotted owlet. And so if we have a look in our book here, this is the barred owlet that we're seeing over here. It's quite easy to identify him from when you get certain things that you can see. Now, the top of the head is always a good place to look. You see how it's got sort of bars and stripes and these radiating sort of half circles that go away from the eyes. And then on the wing, you've got this second spot that comes down from this bar area over here. Now, if we go to the pearl spotted owlet and you look at this little guy at the bottom, even though it looks very similar, look at the head. The head has got lots of little spots on it. All right. And then on the wing side, you don't have that white bar that sits under this big long bar over here. You've just got that little spot there, but that's pretty much the easiest. And then also the chest areas, you see how this has got a kind of streaked front, whereas this has got little blotches and bars on the front of it as well. So that's the easiest way. Also, the barred owlet is slightly larger than the little pearl spotted, but not by much. It only weighs probably an extra 30 grams or so. But that was super cool to see. It's not every day that we're going to get to see a little owl like that regurgitating its food. Oh, there's a monkey as well. So, Kirsten, you say that this little barred owlet is tiny and you want to know how big it is relative to a barn owl. Well, basically a barred owlet at fully grown is about 20 centimeters tall. So that little bird is probably about, that size is about what I would say it is, from tail to head, whereas your barn owls are much bigger birds. Your barn owl, I'm just going to double check, they're 35 centimeters, so it's a 15 centimeter difference between the barred and the barn owl. So it's really quite a lot larger. I mean, the 35 is probably about there versus the little 20, so it's almost double the size really. And the barn owl tends to be a lot bulkier, a lot bigger head than what you see on these little barred owlets. These guys are very small, shy, little reclusive birds that like to move around in these little thickets, and much like the pearl spotted, are very small. And what they'll prey on mostly is other birds. That's what they go after a lot. They'll also go after little lizards and various other things. Right, now I'm going to sit here and just see and watch my owl for a little bit longer, because I always take pleasure in seeing owls. And while I do that, I believe Brent Leo Smith has started the bird challenge and has found the biggest bird there is.
Oh no, I'm still with the lions, but there are some big birds around. I just wanted to show you nicely at one of the most distinct females in this group, that kinky tail female you can see. And she's going to have a drink. But you can see, and hopefully she'll show you a bit more of her tail. We were looking at a big bird, but then the lions started moving. There are some ostriches around. We can't see them from where we are down here at the moment, but we will show them to you just now. So I want to see, is that an old carcass, or is that a new carcass? There's a very old carcass in the grass there. So I'm still trying to figure out what they've eaten, but with so many of them this full, it's probably been something big like a buffalo. Now, if you have any questions, remember #Safari Live. You are on a live African safari coming to you from the Masai Mara in Kenya, and of course, the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa, two of the most iconic wilderness destinations in the world. A second lioness and a third lioness all coming down to have a drink now. Yeah, next one coming. Found a little puddle. Oh, a little scent mark spray there. Oh, here comes one of the young boys. They look like they've been in a bit of a box. Oh yeah, he's got a little new scar on his face since I last saw him. Was it just a bit of mud? He's a very pretty little boy, as these two. Now, Donna's wondering, do lions get hairballs like domestic cats do? They do, Donna. Unfortunately, their hairballs are far smellier, far bigger, and full of far more foul things. So bits of bone and hair, they will cough up hairballs, as well as sometimes they might have... As I say, lions are not very clean things, so they might have some nasty little parasites in there. You get liver flukes, the little fluke worms, tapeworms also sometimes come out in their hairballs. So one of the general rules, if you are in the bush, you can pick up most poo. Giraffe, elephant, rhino, all that is completely fine. You just don't pick up predator poo. It is not good for you. Oh, he's so clumsy. I said these boys are very pretty, and they are going to build up their fair share of battle scars as they get older. They found the smallest puddle in the Mara to drink out of. Terry is asking how old are they? I think, Terry, you're referring to the little boys. Let's have a look at that one. We can see him a bit more easily. He's nice and out in the open. I'd estimate them to be just over 2 years old. So they're probably going to hang around, maybe just under 2 years around that 2 year mark. They'll probably hang around with the pride for another, possibly as long as a year and a half, but generally about a year before the dominant males are going to kick them out. Now, the reason that happens is because at this age, or a little bit older, they will start becoming sexually mature, and they might mate with their sisters, mothers, aunts, and so they're generally chased away by the dominant males because it's evolution's way of trying to stop excessive inbreeding in the big cats. Now, lions are very interesting because they can inbreed for up to 4 generations without any adverse effects on their genetic lineage. But anything more than that can be a problem. And that's why generally you need lions in open ecosystems where you have free movement between the different genetic clades of lions. Now, Kinky tail female's finished her drink and she's walking off on the opposite bank. Funny looking tail. Kristen from Michigan is wondering, does this pride have any young cubs? It does not. At the moment, there is a little girl about the same age as the 2 boys, and those are the only sub-adults at the moment. There are no young cubs. It's not to say that some of the lionesses might not be pregnant. Sorry, my hat's in the way. There's one of the little boys. I must say, little male lions, while they're growing their mane, are definitely one of my favorites. They're very pretty, and often they just look quite ridiculous. The gawky teenage phase. Let's see where they're off to now. And try to show you that big bird that I got sidetracked by with moving lions. Those ostriches have disappeared. The Jahawi has spotted them just across the crest. Now, a lot of the big cats will hunt ostriches. However, they can prove to be quite a difficult quarry to catch with a top speed of around 70 kilometers that they can keep up for a very long time. There they are. Hello, feather dusters. So there was a massive decline in ostriches in the wild during the 1800s, and for two main reasons. Everyone immediately thinks about feather dusters, and in South Africa you actually can get ostrich feather dusters quite easily from the ostrich farms, so they are quite readily available. But the main reason for the decline of ostriches in the wild during the 1800s, don't worry, they have bounced back, there are now more ostriches, and they're in no means threatened, was for fancy hats. Ladies' hats was where most of the ostrich feathers went to, and then they were dyed all sorts of ridiculous colors. Now, in a lot of African tribes as well, the ostrich feathers are very important and are often used as a sign of rank, specifically the black of the male ostrich or the white feathers. In Zulu culture, very much so. Only very high-ranking generals or people were able to wear those ostrich plumes in their headdress. And probably one of the most famous pictures was drawn of one of the most famous kings in Africa, Shaka Zulu, and he had a single white ostrich plume in his headband. Okay, lions, I think they're just going to flop down again after their drink. Yep, there we go, flop down. And well, I think if that female cheat has got any sense, she's going to stay far away from here. Kerry is wondering, have I ever seen lions eat ostrich? Badgers try to eat ostrich eggs, but I've never seen lions. I think it's just too round, and they're unable to crack it open. I'm not saying they haven't, and there might be certain lions that do. That reminds me of one of the smartest birds out there that really likes a good ostrich egg, since you asked the question about ostrich eggs. Now, I've been hoping that we might spot one some time. They're generally closer to the Rift Valley, you can see them, but here we go. There we go, that's the Egyptian is there. Now, they are one of the few birds that is known to use tools, and they will actually pick up a rock and fly above an ostrich egg nest and drop. Very, very rare, very difficult to see. They are seen in the Mara, but very infrequently, more common to the west of us along the Rift Valley. Okay, kitties. Here's the last lioness coming to join the rest. And we're going to need to be next to each other. There we go. Oh, very sweet. Oh, we've got a very nice bird. And you get the starling on the top left there. Now, that looks a little bit more interesting to me. It's superb starling, but it looks a little bit too yellow. So let's just hang on a second. I just want to double check something. Now, there are quite a few starling species that have that same sort of coloration as superb starlings. And as I say, I'm still catching up on my East African birds. Sorry, Joey, can we just stay on it for a second in case it flies? I want to see if there's any color. Now, what has got me is that it doesn't look quite dark enough. It looks quite a lot more yellow. It could just be a slightly more yellow superb starling, but there's normally a bit of a reddish tinge to the superb starling's coloration. So that's why I just want to double check something in my book. But I'm going to turn around here. Now, we might have to do a bit of bird cheating and make some noise to get it to turn around. It is more than likely a superb starling, but we do get other species of starling that look very similar. Now, I was being very hopeful. Oh, it's off. It's flopped. Now, the others would be quite rare birds to find in the Mara. So what I was looking for specifically, the most likely starling that has got the closest distribution to us, but it lacks that very white band. And also, I couldn't see the eye color of that starling. I might try from the other side, but you see it's got a red eye as opposed to the superb who's got a yellow eye. Now, the other one that it could possibly be, when I saw that very yellowish, but it isn't now that I've looked at it, yellow, and also again indigenous to more arid areas to the west of us. But okay, well, I'm going to go try double check and have a look if that is indeed just a normal superb starling. And while we do that, let's go see how Jamie's search for those two young boys is going.
I don't mean to alarm anyone, but I think they're gone. I've arrived where I think I left them. I mean, I know I'm on the right road. I'm not entirely sure where along this road I was when I found them. I think I've gone past where they were, and they appear to have vanished. And the wildebeest didn't do a very good job. Difficult. The other slightly concerning thing is that there's some very, very suspicious clunking sounds from somewhere around the region of my front right wheel, and I'm going to have to investigate as soon as I establish that the lions aren't here, because they're very skittish with people on foot, so I don't want to frighten them away. But I've got a slight concern I'm about to lose a steering arm. He doesn't sound very good, and I can actually feel it through my foot that's on the floor. Okay, lions, where have you gone? Where were you? No, now that I've got to this fork, I've definitely gone past where they were. So it rained a little bit earlier. I wonder if they didn't go off hunting. So now, which direction? This way. Seen them in this direction. Oh. Okay, I really am going to have to look at what's under this car. I'm slightly scared I'm going to damage something. I can hear it. No, it's not steering. Alright, I'm just going to have a quick look at whatever's happening underneath this vehicle. I'll probably find the lions while I do. Let's go back across to Brent to see if he's identified which starling it is.
See, I knew there was a reason I wasn't convinced it was a superb starling. It indeed has a much darker eye, a redder eye, and lacks the white vent underneath it. It is a Hildebrand starling, which is not that common in the Masai Mara. It is one of those that sort of wanders in from time to time. There was just something about it that made me want to double check that it wasn't a superb starling. And I think what happens often in a lot of cases is because quite a few birds look very similar, everyone just assumes that it is the more common of the two. But that's why I always like to double check. So that is very, very cool. Now, I have seen Hildebrand starling before in Tanzania. This is the first time I've seen them in Kenya. How cool is that? A Hildebrand starling. So you always double check. And I get very excited by seeing new birds. I'm quite chuffed. Okay, we're going to leave the lions all sleeping anyhow and go see what else we can find on this gorgeous evening. Oh, the highlight for me is definitely a Hildebrand starling. It was definitely not something I was expecting to see today. Oh, Christy would like to know how many types of starling are there. Well, Christy, it depends if we're talking about in Africa or in the Masai Mara, because in Africa there are quite a lot. I will count them for you. And there are 6 on that page. There's 12, 18, 9, 34, 34, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45 species of starling in Africa. Now, there can be quite a lot of difference between all the starling species. So, wattled starlings, you get flocking starlings, and you get solitary starlings, and you get starlings that live in pairs, so there is quite a lot of difference in them all. So we're going to head back towards the road. I think we might head down towards the river. Now, one thing that we do get in the Masai Mara, which is going to be very difficult to get on camera, but I'm hoping somehow we'll be able to wangle away, is a Pell's fishing owl, which is it's the biggest owl species. And they do live on slow-moving rivers like the Mara and feed off fish. And it's a very, very cool bird. Oh, hello. I think I know where the carcass was, or we might hang around a little bit longer. I see some hyenas heading towards where the lions were. Sorry, Chantal, can you go again with that one, please? I was going over a bump and not listening properly. Like that. There we go. He's got whatever they had, or a piece of it. It looks like it is something big. And hyena had a piece of it in his mouth. Just judging by the size of the bone, there we go. I said it looked like they were so fat they ate a buffalo, and judging by the hyena leaving with a single buffalo leg, I would say those lions almost certainly ate buffalo. Hyena's very impressed with himself. Now you'll probably find if that hyena is well fed, there are a lot of little luggers and bits of water around. Aaron, I will get back to your question now. I haven't forgotten. Oh, there's another hyena arriving. Maybe it's higher ranking, which I think it is going to be. So it's chasing the one. It might chase the one who's got the leg, and that one's going to try and get away with it. Oh, here comes. Or is it not higher ranking? I'm about to find out. So there we go. That one's running towards one. There we go. Oh, similar ranking. No. Higher ranking. It got the leg. The poor lower ranking one has lost its trophy. Well, very nice. Now, as I was saying, the hyenas will probably take that once it manages to lose the low ranking or the other hyenas around them. Hyenas are very adept at stashing food. So even if they're full, they don't want to waste that food. They'll actually put it in water. So with all the little amount of rain we've had, all the luggers and bits of water on, hyena will hide food in the water so the other hyenas can't sniff it out. Okay, well, let's keep heading back down towards the river. And Aaron's question was, are there other birds outside of Africa that I would like to see? Indeed, Aaron, very much indeed. I would love to do some serious birding in the Far East, in the forests there. There's some incredible birds and mammals as well, and of course the Amazon. I've done quite a bit of birding in Europe already, and Europe I've done a bit of birding in the States, not much. I'd definitely like to do some more. My last trip to the States, I was a bit too busy to do too much birding, but I did take my binoculars, and while I was driving around, I would stop, much to my friend who I was on the sales trip with. We were selling safaris, discussed, because he's all about the lions and the big things. He's an American agent, so, and I'd be like, stop, I want to look at that little tiny bird next to the road. And Dave would be like, what are you doing? We have got to cover 300 miles today and have 3 meetings. Can't be stopping for little birds on the side of the road. Of course, I can be very obstinate, stubborn, and irritating. So he eventually did stop for quite a few of them. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not the only birder. Tristan is also an avid birder, and he has actually traveled to some incredible places outside of Africa with Ali. So let's go find out what birds he saw in South America.
Well, Brenty, I've been thinking about which bird I would love to see outside of Africa, and I think there's quite a few of them that I would like to see. Now, I'm going to get into that shortly, but what I've got at the moment, we're just checking a small little water source just on my right-hand side, and the reason why is there's tracks for Hyena, or who I think is Hyena, could be Tumba, of course, but a young male leopard going towards this waterhole, and I can see they're continuing past here and now going up the road. So I want to just double-check and see where these go to. They might head towards Buffelshoek Dam. We know Hyena loves Buffelshoek Dam and likes to head into that area, so I wonder if he hasn't gone up all that way. I hope not, because we still have a few gremlins up that side of the world that are interrupting our transmissions and causing a bit of havoc, so I'm hoping that we don't have a situation where he's gone all the way that side like he likes to do sometimes. I don't know if anybody's even checked up that way this afternoon, so I'm gonna just head and see, and maybe I get lucky somewhere along the way. But in terms of my favorite bird, I think for me would be harpy eagle. That's what I would love to go and see, a harpy eagle in the sort of Amazon area, and I suppose I do have insider info in the form of Ali, because, well, Ali's comes from Venezuela and she's seen harpy eagles, so maybe one day we'll have to head up that side when Venezuela's political situation gets slightly better and the country's in a better place. Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys, but there's our leopard right there. It's Tandi. Hello, Tandi. Sorry, my girl. I'm sorry, girl. I didn't see you. But look at that belly now. Earlier I was saying that she's looking like she's pregnant, but look at that tummy. It is definitely swelling, and I'm sure she is pregnant. But what a cool sight. So we were tracking her and I didn't see her until we got right there. I'm sorry, Sandy. I didn't mean to upset you. She didn't at least growl at us, which is fantastic news, because sometimes she can be a little bit of a grumpy kitty. But how cool is that? Now, there was a young male track in here as well, so I'm not sure if maybe one of the young males is not with her. Maybe Tumba's also around somewhere here. Maybe she's got a kill too, because at the end of the day we had lots of hyenas at Chelapan, which is really not far from where we are now, and so I wonder if her son is not somewhere in this general vicinity too. We know the last time he was seen was last night on Torchwood, coming in this direction, and so it could be his tracks that are also around here. But that is exactly what we were looking for, so how cool is that? I'm sure a lot of you are super excited to see Tandi. She's, I don't know, a firm favorite of many of you, and hopefully she's not going to drag us through some horrible stuff like it looks like she might do. But either way, epic to find her, and so our day is worthwhile to follow those tracks and to come and check this side, because I'm super glad that we did. Now, I wonder where she's going to head. It would be really nice. There's a fallen over tree in front of me, so I really hope that she's going to head and go and sit up on there. That would be excellent. I think it's a little hot for that just yet, but it would be really nice if that was the case. There you go. As you can see, she's just moving along, but there's definitely, that tummy looks like it's got little cubs inside. It's a different shape to when they full. When they full, they get a lot more of a sort of wider appearance, and the stomach doesn't hang like that. When it's hanging like that, it's when they're pregnant. And so I think Tandi is starting to slowly but surely work her way around here and starting to just find a few den sites. Now you can see her tail is up. She's doing that because of a few birds that are busy alarm calling. Now careful your head view and the camera. We just want to lift that up. There we go. Now, like I say, it's going to be a bit of a rough ride with Tandi for the next little bit, because where she's going is really dense and really thick, but at least we found ourselves a leopard for the afternoon. We'll try our very best to keep up with her, and hopefully we will be able to do so. That was absolutely cool. I love it when we find our own leopards. It makes me very happy. I don't know why, it just does, and especially when you've kind of followed a few tracks and you have a hunch that there's a leopard close by and you bump into one. It is always there isn't something very twitchy. I wonder if there isn't maybe a warthog or something that's inside one of these burrows. You never know, but her tail is twitching quite a bit, and that means that she's seen something. She also got a little flinch there as something kind of ran out. Look, she's going to pounce. There she goes. What's she going after? I think she's chasing dwarf mongoose. That's what she's trying to chase at the moment. So I think the dwarf mongoose all went flying into the hole. But you see how she just pounced forward. Now I'm going to just try and get... it's a scrub here. There goes the scrub here that she's chasing. It just went off in front of us. So I'm going to just try and get into a better view for VM so that he can actually film her. But that's exactly what she was after. She was after that little scrub here. I thought it was a dwarf mongoose because I saw something move, but then it actually was a scrub hare.